into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistake. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special Making an Impact show. I am the foe, Cody Defoe. To my right, that isn't the natural. Who are you? That's OLED.
I'm OLED. I'm the fill-in guy. When somebody can't make the show, OLED fills in the gap.
In case you were confused, we are not the same person that just switches out our appearance from week to week. I actually miss shows, and this man covers for me, and now we have given Astrid a much-deserved break, and OLED has graciously hopped on with me to talk Impact Wrestling on the rundown on our way to Sacrifice, to Multiverse United, to Rebellion. There's a lot going on in Impact right now, Ed. How was it for you jumping back in and getting in on it?
It was strange because I haven't watched the week-to-week product in about a week or two. Hello, Mel. Thank you for joining us. I haven't watched the week-to-week show in a few weeks. I've taken a little bit of break. And it was a nice little, wow, they're firing at all cylinders, but they're doing really good jobs at setting up what matches are happening at Sacrifice, what matches they're setting up for Multiverse, and what matches they're setting up for Rebellion. I mean, there really only seems to be the one match at Rebellion so far, but they're doing a good job of, like, catering each story and not running over everything by going, look at all the fun stuff we're going to do. It's like, no, these guys are doing this, but we'll sprinkle in this and we'll add a dash of that, and boom, we have 3 shows to book.
Well, and everything's overlapping well. And like you said, we've only got the one match confirmed right now for Rebellion. But even with where that's going on the lead up through Sacrifice and through Multiverse United, you've got the reminders sprinkling in there of what's still like what's coming at Rebellion. They're not letting us forget what's coming in a month and a half just because we've got something else 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. And the matches I'm hearing so far all sound like great matches that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump into it. We both managed to catch BTI again this week. So like we do on this show regularly, we start off the way the show started off with Before the Impact. Kind of what at the time appeared to be a little bit of a random pairing of Rich Swann and Frankie Kazarian taking on Raj Singh and Shera. This definitely made more sense later. Which one of us has the beard? I'm not sure. Are we between two beards now?
No, we're definitely not between two beards. We're much better than that.
This one, I mean, the first thing I noticed as this match was starting, and I don't know if you caught it, was Tom Hannafin on commentary. I'm pretty sure he took a subtle shot at someone from another company about someone who calls himself something with a sense of fashion.
Yeah, there was a couple shots in here. They talked about money and about something about the gear and money. I forget exactly what the shot was, but there was a couple early shots in there when Mahabali Shera and what's his name, or Rinju Singh or whatever his name is, were coming to the ring. I honestly didn't write down the other guy's name, but yeah, the guy dressed like money.
That was Raj Singh, because Shera is the lion. But yeah, I guess they're selling that Singh and Shera have won some kind of jackpot while they're in Vegas right now. And Singh has started referring to himself as the top dollar. And Tom took the shot, nice to see someone who calls himself top dollar with a sense of fashion, which instantly perked my ears from, we watched NXT. We know what he's talking about. The match itself was a pretty standard tag match. Bobby, Chris, wonderful to see you guys here. Thanks for dropping in. How did you feel about how this tag match played out?
All right, so I have two thoughts. I have thoughts on how good of a team Kaz and Swann looked like in the team that doesn't know each other. Like, they're two veterans and they're two great singles wrestlers, but they made it very apparent through the thing that they were working through some things. They weren't super, work gelled together. They had some spots where it was, you do this, okay, I go do this. And they had those communication spots, which is nice when you have a thrown together tag team, even of two veterans who are, really experienced veterans. And Kazarian, one of the most experienced tag team wrestlers on this entire roster, I think. But it was nice to have that little bit where they didn't quite have that perfect flow going through. And they mentioned it in the promo later on about needing reps together as a team. And I'm like, all right, this is good. They're recognizing how much, cohesion a tag team needs. And they're bringing it up, being like, we're good veterans, but we're not quite there yet. The other thing I had about this match is, how many years can Mahabali Shera work for Impact and still be as green as he is? I feel like Sangha and Veer are light years ahead of him, and they're so much further back in their journey than Mahabali Shera. I agree. I don't hate Mahabali Shera. I think he's got a good look. I think he can do a lot of fun things. But man, has he been here a long time and really isn't that good. He
Would you go so far as to call him maybe a good hand?
No, because I leave good hands for people who are ultra talented in the ring who just might be missing something. I look at Heath Slater and I go, Heath Slater's a good hand. The guy's just missing that one it factor to be a top star. He's funny. He can do the comedy. He's a really great in-ring wrestler. But he's missing that it factor. Yeah, I really do, Mel. I think he's the Aaliyah of Impact. Somebody who's been there forever, but just doesn't quite have that thing that makes him special.
Yeah, I feel like Raj Singh is kind of stuck in that same boat right now where he's jumping from thing to thing and partner to partner, but just can't ever really seem to get his feet off the ground as far as a foothold in Impact Wrestling. So you got a good point there that, yeah, at some point you either have to make the jump or make room for somebody else. And I know Impact right now, we're kind of struggling to fill the roster, and it's nice to have these guys who are just, consistent in what they bring to the table. But I'm sure there's plenty of other guys out there that might be able to offer a little bit more than what Shera has given in the last couple of years, as far as I've been watching.
He's not a train wreck in the ring. He can have a good match, but at the same time, there's nothing about him that makes me want him to do well or have a great match or pay much attention to his match. Like, I knew this entire time that in this entire match, the only two people I needed to focus on were Kazarian and Swan, because they're the only two people who are going to matter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I definitely agree with what you said, too, about Swan and Kazarian as two really talented veteran guys who had their moments in the match that didn't seem like they quite had it all put together. The one that really stood out to me was where they had, I believe it was Raj that was down on the ground, and they both went to the opposite ropes, and Kazarian hit like the jumping, spinning leg drop, and Rich just looked like he was confused at what he was supposed to be doing and just kind of splashed with the leg drop for some kind of double team move. And then the finish where Rich had to kind of figure out which corner he was going to, and then Kaz had to try and like figure out how to drag the opponent over to the corner in place for Rich. So some miscommunication, and it worked in this spot as a place where they're really portraying that part of not having the reps, not having the experience and the knowledge of each other as a partner. And I appreciate that. Even if it was legitimately that they were having those problems in the ring, it made sense in the story side.
Yeah, I have a feeling it was more story than it was reality. Like, I think this was all played up. These two guys are veteran enough to make it look like they have no clue what they're doing in the ring, but have all the clue about what they're doing in the ring. But yeah, like, it was awkward in the best way possible, because it made sense that these two guys don't know how to work together just yet. They know what each other does, and they can kind of balance it. But like you're saying, with that spot with the spinning leg drop, Swan's standing there to do this, to splash, but he's like, am I bouncing off the rope? Like, what? And he just does the splash.
Yeah.
It was a good spot, and again, it's a positive step moving forward because you're telling a story, especially if these two are going to stay linked.
Yeah. And that, like I said, with Kaz and Swan off the bat here going into this match, it's like, how did we even get to Frankie Kazarian and Swan together? On last week's show, it just kind of showed Swan having a backstage interaction with Singh and Shera, but we didn't really get a televised interaction of how Kazarian got involved. Whereas we've got now some foreshadowing as to something that's going to come on the main show that we'll talk about when we get there.
Mm-hmm. Overall, it was a good BTI match. It didn't take too long. Like I said, even Mahabali Shera, he didn't look bad, but it's obvious that, if this guy was back there, working with James Storm and working with, TJP, like, these are guys who you should have learned from. You've been there long enough. It's not like you're a guy who hasn't been there a while. You're their Jinder Mahal. They want you to be a star to help bridge that Indian market. And you've been pushed that way for a reason. But you have to poop or get off the pot, because...
And I mean, at this point, he's already kind of missed the boat. That boat of the Indian market seems to be sailing in another direction that we'll get to in a minute here.
And I really like that boat. I want to get on that boat. I didn't know who it was the worst part is I had no clue who it was until they put up the little thing on there. And even after that, I still didn't know until I looked him up online.
Yeah. But let's jump there. So that was our BTI match, solid tag match between a couple guys who haven't really got other than Rich Swann, haven't got a ton of spotlight in a few months now. We open the show, recap of some of the stuff that went down last week. I'm not going to go through it as I sometimes do. We're just going to jump. Bully Ray opens the show. Walks out, microphone in hand, starts cutting a promo about Tommy Dreamer at No Surrender making a comment about someone like me. What did he mean, someone like me? What kind of someone is someone like me? I get what he was going for. I do. It was kind of grasping at straws for me, but it was something to keep this going. He makes mention of Tommy on social media, challenging him to a busted open match, whatever that is. Bully himself even said, I don't know what a busted open match is, but Tommy's not even going to be ready for Sacrifice, so he's just challenging me to an empty challenge to make me look like a goof. And, we get Santino comes out, makes the match official, says Tommy just has minor burns, he'll be ready for Sacrifice. I'm going to hold up there and ask you, the whole Bully Ray promo up until Santino's interruption, Ed, did it do anything for you as someone coming in without having really seen all of the Bully Ray stuff over the last few weeks?
Had I not kept up with the product and watched YouTube and watched your show, and had I not been driving, I probably would have fallen asleep. Bully's a great promo, but this entire feud just makes me want to take a nap. Like, there's no reason in 2023 that we should be having a feud between Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer shouldn't be having any feuds in 2023. Like, we always talk about how WWE loves to keep that Legends thing and bring in the Legends, and the Legends are always there. The one thing WWE typically does with their Legends is utilize them, with the exception of Goldberg, to help put over and work with younger talent, or talent that needs that little bit extra to get over. Who's getting over until Santino comes out? Nobody's getting over in this thing. Like, it's getting over busted open. That's great. We're not busted open. We don't own satellite Sirius Radio. What the hell do we care if they have ratings? What do we care what Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray think? Like, it's just pointless. It's a great promo by Bully, but Bully's a great promo. Bully could do a great promo in his sleep. Like, it's not hard for him to cut a good promo. But I could care less about him cutting a good promo on Tommy Dreamer.
Crazy that 20 years later we're talking about Bully Ray cutting a good promo, given that 20 years ago he was stuttering Bubba Dudley and couldn't cut a promo to save his life.
But even then, 20, 30 years ago in ECW or in WWE, he had a defined character and was so good at delivering that character and making us understand who he was and what he was about. Him and Devon always had those two things going for them. You always knew who they were and what they were going after. And that's the one thing I think is missing here. Bully's just doing nothing of substance.
Yeah. This, and Astrid and I have talked about it the last couple weeks, from No Surrender and even before. This whole thing right now for Bubba and Tommy, or Bully and Tommy, really feels like busted open, threw some money at Anthem, at Access, and said, hey, we're going to sponsor your product and throw you some money. We're going to put Bully Ray on your program, but for Bully to be on your program, busted open has to get put over by him being there.
You know what would have been a better use of all that money that they paid Anthem? Keeping Gabby on the show. For those who haven't heard, the producer Gabby, who's an absolute smoke show, was let go by Sirius XM because of the fact that they were laying off people.
And maybe it wasn't that they threw money. Maybe it was that Impact came to Bully and said, hey, we have a gap in the roster. We need a veteran. And Bully's like, hey, I'll come back, but here's my clauses for coming back to your show.
That makes more sense. Like it's just weird.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, whatever the case may be, Bully and Tommy have this arrangement with Impact right now that for Bully being back on Impact and Tommy being involved, busted open has to be in the spotlight for everything. naming a match, like Barry says, a busted open match, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be some kind of version of a First Blood match.
That's what I was thinking when I heard it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we don't need to have it as a sponsored name to a match. Like, yeah, cool, it's a cool name to give to the match, but it doesn't hold the same weight, being that it's just being named after the show, after we just got subjected to a 15-minute long pay-per-view promo that basically could have been avoided and jumped right to the busted open match a week and a half ago.
There was a good thing about this promo, and you're about to get
to
it, and I'm very excited for this.
So Santino comes out. There's a couple good things. As soon as Santino comes out, the whole mood just lifts in the building instantly. As he always does, he calls him Bobby Ray. And Bully actually starts getting upset and like yelling at him. His name's Bully, not Bobby, which gets the Vegas crowd going, and we actually get a full-blown Bobby Ray chant at Bully Ray in the ring. This is where Santino confirms that Tommy will be ready and the sacrifice match will happen. Enter Bhupinder Gujjar. And I have mixed feelings on this because I've been a strong supporter of Gujjar for as long as he's been in Impact, for probably close to 9 months at this point that he's been having matches here and there. He started out, since you aren't familiar with him, and he started out almost a year ago in a position where Raj Singh was trying to recruit him before Singh paired up with Mahabali Shera, and then he brought Shera to fight Gujjar because Gujjar kept shunning him. But Gujjar comes out after having lost the Beat the Clock challenge to Bobby Bully a couple weeks ago, and then standing up and taking out Bully last week when he was confronting Santino and Dango backstage. This is all well and good. I really like where Gujjar's going, and I'm really hopeful that this all leads to a big push for Bhupinder Gujjar. He was actually voted the up-and-coming star, like the one to watch for 2023 in Impact's awards in December. I was really kind of shocked at him taking the quick loss to Bully Ray a couple weeks ago, but if this ends up with him getting a big, clean win, because now we've had the backstage altercation, we had the match where he lost due to the interference of the good hands with the chain on Bully's fist, and now this turned into a match tonight that again did not end clean. I'm left hoping that this is where we're going with this, but the mixed feelings on him come from the promo he cut and the fact that he cut it in Hindi. I'm all for characters speaking their native language. 100%. I want to support them being able to do that. And Santino translating for him was a fun touch on that. But the American crowd and even the Canadian crowd to some extent, I feel like in Ontario you'll probably get a lot more uptake on that. But the American crowd for sure, when they're traveling the States, we all know that speaking anything other than English is a surefire way to turn yourself heel. And I wish it wasn't the case, and I hope that he can make this work as a means where he can speak both Hindi and English back and forth and still tell a promo. I just don't know if that's something that will work down there.
Yeah, I really like, believe it or not, I really like the promo. Like Barry comes in and says, Bhupinder in his native language I liked. He had far more passion in his voice than his stuttering poor English. I don't know about his English, but he really killed it speaking Hindi. I felt that promo. I picked up a couple words because there are a couple words that are similar to words in English. So you kind of got the idea. Yeah, the massive problem that Japan has with language too. The Japanese wrestlers that come over, Asuka, when she speaks in her Japanese, she cuts an incredible promo. When she tries to do it in English, it falls down a bit. The Spanish speakers do the same thing. When you have Spanish speakers who can't speak English, like you said, you run into that problem where they either get made a heel or the crowd just doesn't understand and then doesn't care. This crowd seemed to be giving him the benefit of the doubt, having Santino there to be a little bit of a comedy thing, to be like, this is what he said. Obviously, he didn't say that. He said a lot of other things that had nothing to do with that. But it was fun. It makes Santino, you laugh at Santino, and you go ahead and you get to the match, which you want. But yeah, going forward, if he's not going to speak in English, he could have a problem being a babyface. because you can't cut a promo in a language that your audience doesn't understand.
No.
Whether it be Spanish, whether it be Japanese, whether it be Chinese, whether it be Hindi, there's, French, when Sami Zayn cuts his... There's a reason why when Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are in Canada, and they cut their part of their promo in French, they cut a similar version of that promo in English right afterwards. Their entire promo isn't in French. It's a few lines to get the crowd in the arena to pop, because the crowd in the arena is going to understand. If we were in India, I'd understand speaking Hindi, because you get the crowd to pop. You're not going to get the crowd in Las Vegas to pop by speaking Hindi.
Yeah. In Ontario for Rebellion, in Toronto, there, I can speak from knowledge of the area, that there is a fairly large Hindi population in the Toronto downtown core. Him speaking Hindi in a promo at Rebellion 100% will get a massive pop from that contingent of the crowd. But like you said, Vegas isn't the place to do that. And it was good that they had Santino there to kind of help build this along. But it has to be a nice medium. There's a way to do this, and Impact just has to find that sweet spot where they can let him be himself, but also still be able to get the story and the message across to the crowd. Yeah. Like I said, this ended up with Santino making a match between Gujjar and Bully Ray. Bully tries to start the match the exact same way he started the Beat the Clock match, by grabbing the chain and trying to go for the knockout punch. Gujjar was smart this time. He saw it coming, ducked it. The opening for as long as this match went, this match ended with shenanigans. Bully finishes with a low blow, and then we get Dreamer comes out to help Gujjar. We have Masha comes out and low blows Tommy. We have Mickie comes out to take out Masha. And then Tommy and Gujjar get back up to save Mickie from the numbers game. The match part of itself, which was fairly short, it was only a few minutes long, I thought Gujjar looked really, really good in that short segment we got. What I've seen of Gujjar in all of his matches, he's always looked good, but against a guy the talent of Bully Ray, Bully really sold for him, and Gujjar really held his own in that ring and took some solid shots and chest slaps from Bully that he just kept getting back up from.
Shenanigans.
Always shenanigans.
But no, I agree. I was really impressed with this. This is my first time seeing Gujjar in the ring. I was severely impressed with him. I thought he has an interesting style. Bully Ray sold for him. This is mostly a Bully Ray match, but Bully is great about keeping the heat on himself while not having to be in control of the match. Gujjar got to be in control of a majority of this, albeit short match, but Bully Ray was still obviously the one leading the dance. Everything was, this is what Bully Ray wants to do. Bully's explained it to Gujjar. Gujjar understands what he's doing and does a really good job holding up his end of the bargain. He looked a lot better in there with Bully than Shiro looked in there with Rich Swann and Kazarian. And that's a scary proposition for Shira. And
Yeah.
And I understand why the Impact audience likes Gujjar, because he's got a style and he's got this feeling about him that you want to cheer for him. You want to like him. He's got this babyface likability.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on from this match, I do just want to pull up Barry's comment here. Talking about people these days, based on popular Netflix shows, seem more happy to read subtitles, and suggesting that Impact just put them on. Ed, I know we had this. I forget which team it was we had it with in NXT last year. Perhaps you remember.
Yep.
Where you and I and Astrid on our former NXT recap show specifically kind of talked and mocked this, because it was a backstage promo where they were speaking in their native language. I believe it was Imperium, actually.
I was going to say, I was waiting for you to see if you could get there on your own. It's Imperium.
But they had all of the subtitles up. So the subtitles for what is supposed to be a live, even though as fans we know a lot of this is shot like behind the scenes and pre-recorded and stuff like that, that easily they could put subtitles out. Having subtitles for something that is live really kind of breaks that wall and just makes it a little harder to indulge in the product by recognizing like, hey, how the hell do they know what this guy's about to say before he's even said it?
Yeah, I agree. We mocked it then because NXT tries to make themselves feel live. In the rare occasions where they have to tape a few shows at a time, their attempt is to stay live as much as possible. They try to present their product as a live product. Impact is a lot more honest about that their product is a taped product and a batch taped product. They tell you, hey, come to the tapings for the Impact shows. We're going to be in Ontario for these days, and these 2 days we're going to be taping Impact. I think you could get away with it, like Barry says. I think you could probably get away with it on Impact because of the fact that Impact is upfront about it. If, like, AEW, you know, where Rampage, they don't want you to think Rampage is taped. They want you to kind of think Rampage is live. They don't really bring up that it's a taped show. In any show that doesn't tell you that it's taped, it feels weird to know what's going to happen before it happens.
Yeah, and I think for backstage segments, it's okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think they've done it with one or two of Masha's interviews with Gia where she's speaking in Russian, where they've given a little bit of subtitling at least. Where that hurts is in the live in-ring promos. Yep. There isn't a way to get that live crowd reaction you want if they're not speaking something that the crowd can understand.
And that's where this promo wouldn't have worked for subtitles, because you're doing it in front of a live audience, and anything done in front of the live crowd, you need the crowd to be a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby, that would be great, but it's you know, right now she's working with Astrid. Watch your movie and stop paying attention to us. But you know, it's one of those things where it's just, you've got to kind of let the guy sink or swim, and they're trying to give him the best opportunity. And I like that Impact feels like they need to help him, because that's a good sign, because they have faith in him, but they want to make sure that he has the best chance to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to help him float. They don't want him to sink. They want him to be able to swim, and they're giving him the lessons and giving him the support system to get him to that point where he can swim on his own. And if that means that his first few kind of interactions and things have to be in a situation like this where he's going to have a Santino or a Dango there to kind of help mediate and incorrectly translate what he's saying to get a crowd reaction, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with the promo being in Hindi, like Barry said to begin all of this discussion. He had that passion. It felt honest. It felt heartfelt. I just wish I could have understood what he was saying.
Absolutely.
Which is your point.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on Bully Ray, a lot longer than Astrid and I typically will spend on Bully Ray segments, but I give that credit to Bhupinder Gujjar. Let's move it along. We had a couple backstage segments here before we get into the next in-ring action. We had PCO, just a clip of him in the desert with a shovel, screaming out for Eddie to meet him in the desert where he was buried last time. We get Rich Swann backstage. Looks like he's packing up his luggage when Josh Alexander approaches him, asks if Rich will be his partner at Sacrifice. Rich says he'll be there. He'll have Josh's back. Steve Macklin comes in, asks to be the other partner so that he can make sure Josh stays healthy until Rebellion and also to scout his competition. I really enjoyed Josh's response to this, where he looks at Macklin. He's like, I've been champion for almost a year now. If you haven't scouted me yet, it's kind of too late for that. And also, we've already got a third, and brings in Frankie Kazarian.
It was great.
I don't feel like we need to focus on the PCO segment so much. We'll get to that in a bit here, but the setup of Josh finding his partners to take on Time Machine at the Multiverse United, or at Sacrifice before Multiverse United. What did you feel of that, Ed?
I like that. I also like that, if I remember correctly, this is the last 2 out of 3 challengers for his championship too, right? Because Rich Swann just took him on at the last show. No Surrender.
Yep.
And I believe it was the show before Bully Ray had the title shot.
Yep. At Hard to Kill, and then Frankie had it in December. So yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this seems like, I like that he's bringing in people he knows, people he respects, but guys he's fought against.
And both of those matches were led up to. The Frankie match was Josh and Frankie, their respect for each other.
Yeah.
The Rich match, it was their respect for each other. Like, Bully was someone that was that heel, but these two, it was built on respect going into the match, and they still hold that respect coming out of the match.
Yeah, it felt right. It felt honest. It was great after seeing the BTI segment too. Like you say, it all kind of flows right into each other. He does a really good job. And I love the inclusion of Macklin. Macklin just wants to be near Josh Alexander. And that's great for a person who's going for a championship. I like the idea that he's like, look, I want you healthy so that when I beat you, you don't have anything to look back on and go, oh, well, I got hurt in a tag match. I don't think Macklin would turn on him. I think Macklin would have been a good partner. But I love the swerve that we get where he's like, nope, you're too late. I already got a guy. Kazarian walks in. Nice quick segment. The next segment that they have is even better than this one.
Yeah. We go to the ring for our next bit here, for our next match. Step 6 in the initiation of Callihan. We have Callihan versus Rhino. Rhino actually brings Heath out to the ring with him. This one is just a straight up hoss battle. It really is just two big men, just tests of strength, power move after power move, heavy shot after heavy shot. The biggest thing that I caught in this match was Rhino with what looked like a massive TKO. I can't remember the last time I saw Rhino hit any kind of move that involved him lifting someone, let alone lifting a guy the size of Callihan. The match goes a lot different than I would have expected, but made so much sense in the end. Where we have Angels on the outside, right as Callihan goes to run off the ropes, catches Callahan's foot. Big Con is there with the chair, smokes Callihan in the chair, reminiscent of what Callihan did to Con by accident, supposedly, at the No Surrender pay-per-view, and results in Rhino actually getting a win over Callihan, which I did not expect whatsoever. I'm not sure how familiar you were with what all happened and what down with No Surrender, how up to date you are on all of the steps of the initiation here. Fill us in, Ed. Where do you stand on the whole Callihan initiation and the way this match played out?
I feel like it's taking a little longer than I would have liked. I would have liked there to have been some kind of a resolution at some point in the near future. I like that Diener, if nothing else, Diener is impressing me more and more every time I see him with the way he does everything he does. He takes that lead spot on the apron and Callihan stands next to him to show solidarity, and Callihan goes to do the thumbs up, thumbs down, and he grabs him with the thumbs up and he's like, no, you get in the ring and you stand behind me. And without a word, he point, like, Diener is so good just getting everything over.
All of that nonverbal communication.
So great. He's picking it up. He's making it understood non-verbally exactly what's happening. And then post-match, after, Sammy gets smoked with that chair. And I'm like, that seems weird. And then, the commentary team fills me in. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. This is a whole thing. And I love the fact that Diener's so pleased that this went exactly how Diener wanted. But more importantly, I think it was important to Diener that Sammy reacted the right way. Sammy didn't go after Khan. Sammy didn't go after Angels. He didn't look upset. He understood and took whatever happened as what happened. And I think that was I think that might have been the test, to see if Sammy could take a mistake and just roll with it.
We did have the backstage segment that kind of interrupted all of this, and then a commercial, but I'm just going to fill out kind of the rest of the design story here and then come back to that backstage. So during the commercial break, we get the fill-in after the commercial where it shows what we left off on before the break was Khan and Angels and Diener coming in with a chair. Diener sitting down behind Callihan, waiting for him to get up from the chair shot. during the commercial, as Callihan's coming up and questioning kind of what was going on, you have Diener there showing him the 6 fingers that, basically identifying this was the 6th of the 7 deadly steps. And then Khan and Angel still kind of grab Callihan and escort him back up the ramp, signifying that the design isn't done. If this is the 6th deadly step done, that means Callihan only has one more step left, and we're left wondering now where that 7th step is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. Callihan and Diener are doing such a great job. Take or leave Angels and Khan. I don't know how well they fit in with Diener. Khan is so massive, like ballooned steroid massive at this point. Like, I remember him in NXT and on the main roster, and he was a big guy, don't get me wrong, but he looks like he's about 2 of Connor from the Ascension at this point. He's bulked a lot more than I expected. I noticed it today, like, more so than I've ever noticed it, because he had that sleeveless shirt, and it was, like, barely covering anything, and I'm just like, oh my. But no, this is a well-told story. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on the length of time, because they're doing a good job telling the story.
Yeah, and the end is in sight now. Based on our timeline, we could very well be looking at the 7th step being, you could almost call it the ultimate sacrifice happening at Sacrifice.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Jumping back, we did have that promo that kind of split this segment in 2. We have Director of Authority Santino and the Assistant Dictator of Authority Dango in the back talking about Gregory. Maybe my mind is slipping. I do not recall any Gregory. I don't know who Gregory they are talking about. Luckily, they are quickly interrupted by our X Division champion, Trey Miguel, who is talking about how he has been elevating the X Division, elevating the championship, and how he's defeated Steve, he's defeated Taurus, he showed up at No Surrender even though he wasn't scheduled and took on PCO, and Santino offers that he's going to help Trey Miguel cement his legacy with a hand-picked challenger for Sacrifice. Trey questions, hand-picked challenger, what's that going to do to cement my legacy? And Santino just diverts off and starts talking about the Multiverse United, where there is now going to be a 6-man match where Trey Miguel, or if he loses the title, whoever the X Division champion is, will be defending the title against Rich Swann, Frankie Kazarian, Rocky Romero, Kevin Knight, and Clark Connors, which is a stacked X Division 6-man match, if I might say so.
I wish I had more time to know who the hell Clark Connors and Kevin Knight are to be more excited with it. I know Mel's going to know who. I can already see Mel shouting Clark Connors. I know the name. I know he's a New Japan Strong talent. I know of him. I've not seen any of his work. I couldn't pick him out of the lineup if I tried.
Clark Connors was a New Japan Young Lion in their program for the last few years. He's just, within the last year, I believe, graduated from his Young Lion status to full-blown, member of the roster. Kevin Knight is actually Kushida's tag team partner and was Kushida's tag team partner in the World Tag, or the Best of Super Junior Tag League last year as well.
Okay. I thought when they said Kevin Knight, I thought they misunderstood. They misspoke Ricky Knight, because I was thinking about Soraya's brother, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
No, Kevin Knight has actually been on the last handful of Impact Wrestling episodes. He was at the tapings that Astrid was at, that she got to see him live, and we both have been talking about how much he's impressed us. So.
Yeah, it sounds like a great match. Anytime you can get some of this New Japan talent in, especially with people like, Rocky Romero and Frankie Kazarian and Rich Swann, it's going to be great. I don't understand what the big green glob on the X Division title is.
That is Trey, when he won the title, spray painted the TM on the title.
Is that what it's supposed to be? Because
he mentioned it in this promo as well, that when he won the title, he tagged it.
I would say he tagged it, but I couldn't understand. I just thought he just spray painted a big circle on it because that's all it looks like.
No, it's the TM.
Okay, it looks awful. Take your advice, Trey. Here, go watch some old school WWE. Go get the network if you're in Canada. If you're not, go watch on Peacock. The NWO teaches you a great job on how to use nice spray paint to make nice letters on the championship, so you could really brand that thing with a branding that you can sell. Because I don't think I want to buy the green X Division championship.
As Barry says, Kevin Knight kind of has, he definitely has the look of a Trick Williams for sure. I think I haven't seen Trick since I stopped watching NXT last year, but I think Kevin Knight is better than what I saw of Trick when I was watching.
Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's much more talented.
And Mel says Kevin Knight has the best dropkick in the biz, and that means a lot coming from Mel because she watches a lot of Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah, and Okada, as far as I know, it's Okada, Randy Orton, and then there's a gap after those two, because those two have some beautiful drop kicks.
The double team finisher that Kushida and Kevin Knight use is Kushida puts his opponent in the electric chair on his shoulders, and Kevin Knight jumps over Kushida to drop kick the opponent off of Kushida's shoulders.
I mean, that would be much more impressive if Kushida wasn't all of 2'3". Like, I love Kushida to death, but Kushida is all of maybe 5 feet tall.
We'll quickly pop Parrish's comment up here that AJ still has a beautiful drop kick. That he absolutely does.
But I mean, he's not in the Randy Orton Okada realm. That's a special realm of drop kicks.
Yeah. We get interrupting Trey Miguel's conversation here with Santino. We get Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice as Zicky pushes Swinger into frame, and Trey decides that this is his time to leave. Swinger makes a comment about Dango doing a job for him, to which Dango replies his only job is to be the assistant dictator of authority, which turns into an argument between Dango and Santino on whether or not he actually is the assistant dictator of authority. And Johnny Swinger and Zicky leave to go find Gregory in the dungeon, apparently. Who the hell's Gregory? Somebody tell me who Gregory is. Gregory Helms, maybe?
I was wondering if it was related to Little Jimmy. Maybe Gregory is related to Little Jimmy. I feel for Zicky Dice here. Swinger's great. I love Swinger. Swinger's the epitome of stupid comedy. I love Swinger. He makes me roll my eyes, but at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of fun, and Swinger's a little bit of fun. I feel bad that Zicky Dice is tied up in this, because Zicky Dice is so talented and can offer so much. And unfortunately, he's been tied to this godforsaken anchor that is Johnny Swinger. Not that it makes it sound like I don't like Johnny Swinger, and I do. But we don't get to see the best of Zicky Dice when he's playing second banana to a guy who's a jobber. And he's a jobber, not only a jobber, he's the king of jobbers. And it's, oh my God.
The thing I have to say for Zicky here, at least, is he's found a way to stick.
Yeah.
Between the learning tree with Brian Myers and now Swinger's Dungeon, even though he's not doing a ton of in-ring, he's still consistent on TV. His face is still getting recognizable. We're still seeing him almost on a weekly basis in these funny Swinger segments. He's been involved in stuff with some fairly high, large names with the Brian Myers stuff. He was consistently in and around W. Morrissey. He's been around Moose. He's been around Macklin. He's been involved with bigger names in the company. And I don't know what the long-term plan would be for Zicky Dice, but I'm appreciating the fact that the man is putting his all into something that is such a low-hanging fruit of a gimmick. really.
No, I agree. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that Zicky Dice's career is buried because he's working with Swinger and all this stuff. I'm just saying I wish we could see more of the greatness of Zicky, because there's a lot to be had there, and I'd rather see more Zicky and less Busted Open. I'd rather see more Zicky and less Mahabali Shira. I'd rather see more Zicky and less PCO.
Yeah, and as Barry says, Johnny Swinger was great in Swinger's Palace.
Yeah.
And he made Alicia Edwards entertaining, which, I mean, potential spoilers, somebody else might be finding a way to make Alicia something again, but we'll find out that soon enough. We got a quick squash match after this. Jordynne Grace taking on a local talent by the name of Alex Gracia.
It's Alex Gracie.
Or Gracia.
Well, they kept saying Alex Gracia, but I know her as Alex Gracie. She's a long-time fill-in. She's been on AEW a few times. She's been on WWE a few times. She's a fantastic talent. She got way more in this match than I ever thought she would against Jordynne Grace. It was fun, but again, it was a bit of a waste of time.
See, and this was my low light of the night. I felt like this was kind of sloppy. I felt like Alex was not quite hitting her marks consistently. There was the early spot where she was supposed to jump over Jordynne and she didn't get enough height and almost basically landed on Jordynne's back. The one where Jordynne tried to throw her and whip her to the corner and she kind of like stumbled in and went like halfway through the ropes and half into the corner. And then even like the German suplex, the camera work didn't really help on the German suplex bridge, but it was very, very obvious when Jordynne had her in the bridge and then at 2 released and pushed her off of her.
Yeah.
And then got up and questioned the ref as to why it was only 2.
I mean, no, it wasn't the Gress match. I think it takes a special talent to be able to showcase the things that Jordynne Grace does well properly. And we should take more positive things when we see people like Ashley DeBrosia, when we see Steph DeLander, who come in here and work with people like Deonna Purrazzo and Jordynne Grace. Working with Jordynne Grace is a tall task for anybody. That woman is 5 foot. I feel like she's 5'10". I feel like she's a big, tall woman. She's Big Mama Pump for a reason. It's not easy to do the things you need to do to make her look good. She has things that you need to do to make her look good, and I feel like they didn't do enough chatting about this match to make sure that Alex could hit the spot she needed to hit. And it made them both look a bit poor. Just
to correct you there, she is only actually 5'2".
Grace is only 5'2"?
Yeah.
God, she feels so much bigger than that.
Have you ever seen a picture of her next to Jonathan Gresham?
Yeah.
They're basically the same height, and Jonathan Gresham's like 5'0".
I always forget that Gresham's short.
After correcting me now, saying 5'3", but I was more in the ballpark.
Oh, shit. Way more in the ballpark than I ever was. Yeah. But there's just... Jordynne is a special type of athlete that just has... She has special needs in her opponent. There's a certain reason why she looks great with people like Deonna, and she looks great with people like Mickie, and she looks great with people like Masha. But then you put her in the ring with some of these up-and-coming talents, and they don't know how to make her look good. It's also why she looks good wrestling somebody like Matt Cardona. The match that I will always point people to when it comes to what's a great Jordynne Grace match, go watch the match with Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
That is one of my absolute favorites for the Digital Media Championship. That is one of my absolute favorite matches of hers. Because it does a perfect job of showing off exactly what she is and what she can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That match definitely impressed me right off the bat as well. It was easily one of the best Digital Media Championship matches prior to Joe Hendry winning the championship.
Yes.
But it's also one of the best intergender matches I've seen possibly ever, but definitely outside of the independent local wrestling scene here where I am.
Yeah, it's a quality match in general. Like, I don't need to put, like, yes, it's great to put the intergender label on it and just go, it's one of the best intergender matches. It's one of the best Matt Cardona matches I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because I've watched everything he's done for the most part before he left WWE.
We're sliding off the rails a little bit, jumping back on that match there, but it's a good point on Jordynne Grace and what she needs, and I think Alex Gracie was just not the right one, especially coming out of the Masha matches and the Mickie match and even the Steph DeLander stuff that she did recently. Jordynne definitely has a certain style to her that Alex she felt out of place. She felt way beneath Jordynne's abilities. Which is unfortunate for her, and I
hope we see her again with somebody more fit for her.
Same thing I said of the last round of tapings, and I forget the guy's name already, who basically was just tall. But I said, when he went against Jonathan Gresham, he just felt like he was out of his element, and felt like he didn't belong. And I hope for Alex's case that she gets that opportunity to come back and show what she's about in a spot where it fits more what she is.
Yep.
We get a couple more backstage segments after the match. We have Moose walking backstage. We cut to Joe Hendry telling jokes to a crowd about Moose. As Moose approaches, he's like, "Hey, look, everybody, it's the dancing Moose." And as everybody's having a good chuckle of that, Brian Myers sneaks in from behind and attacks Joe Hendry, which becomes then a 2-on-1 beatdown of our digital media champion, as Brian Myers and Moose lay him out, and Myers lays claim to the title before exiting. This is kind of building off of where we've been going with Moose and Myers, and previously Cardona all getting upset about Hendry making fun of them in his songs. At some point, I'd like to see this move another direction, but I'm almost at a point now where I'm wondering, do they pull that title off of Hendry to give it to Myers, or do they keep Joe running strong? And all I'm going to say about that is I believe in Joe Hendry.
I mean, I obviously, echo that sentiment that I believe in Joe Hendry. Astrid's saying no. She doesn't want the title taken off of Joe Hendry. This is where I think a good spot would be for a Zicky Dice. I think you can get a lot of mileage out of Zicky Dice versus Joe Hendry. I think these guys could be highly entertaining. They might even be sports entertaining.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if Zicky Dice beats Joe Hendry for the title, we got heat.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, it's my fault for putting it out there. So yeah, I get it. But I'm sick of Moose, and I'm sick of Cardona, and I'm sick of Myers in general. Like, just in general, I don't want them around. So, like, it's fine to move on to something else. But it makes me worry, does Impact know what they want to do next? They don't seem to have a next. And
they always find a way to make the next happen. Just sometimes you have to wait it out to see where they're going. Sometimes they're not always the best at making it obvious where the story's going until they make it happen.
Yeah, and like I said, it obviously seems that we're stuck on this three-way. I think that's what we get at Sacrifice. I think we're getting a three-way. And hopefully that leads to Moose and Myers having issues. Because I thought it was funny that Moose was all excited and okay with the fact that Myers was like, "This is my title." And I'm like, Moose is okay with that?
Yeah, no, last week they had that where Moose went to Myers and said, "We have a Joe Hendry problem. I don't even want the title. I just want to get rid of him and give him payback." And he told Myers could have the title if Moose, if he helped him beat down Hendry.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
There we go. Filling in the gaps.
Yep. Then we got another backstage where Ace Austin and Chris Bay, with their newly won tag team titles, are entering a backstage area with the NJPW Strong Champion Kenta along with them. An interesting brief interaction where Shane Haste approaches and tells them to keep those titles warm as he's going to be coming for them, signifying that we might get a TMDK arrival. And I'm all in on TMDK versus Ace and Bay. That's a fun match waiting to happen.
Yes,
But this ultimately leads to the Bullet Club trio encountering Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, and Frankie Kazarian backstage, talking about their match against the Time Machine coming up at Sacrifice. Ace and Bay start questioning, like, I don't understand why you'd want to go after those guys instead of coming for us. Since we just beat them, like really setting the bar low, and a little bit of back and forth here, which results in Frankie saying, "You know what? We'll get some tag experience in. We got to get some reps in, and we'll take you guys on next week instead." And I liked where this went. I didn't take the note specifically of where all Ace and Bay and Kenta went with this, but it was basically Ace saying, like, get some reps in. Like, are you thinking you're going to beat us? Like, you're going to, like, we're just some pushovers for you, warm up. And was it Kazarian, I think, said, that's not what I was saying, but was it Josh said that?
It's Josh, yeah.
That's not what I was saying, but I guess, like, if you're going to wear those titles, you should wear them with confidence. Wearing the titles with insecurity isn't a good look for you.
Chef's kid. The only thing wrong with this promo, there's only one thing wrong with this promo. When did Kenta become a mute? Like, why do we not hear one word from Kenta?
Because they're all written in his book.
Okay, cool book. Beats the hell out of me what the book is. This is great.
I'll tell Mel to fill you in later.
Okay. I have it in my notes. The Bullet Club is backstage and they walk in to see TMDK, and I'm like, I need to see that match and I need to see it now. And they meet up with Team Impact.
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like. It's Team Bullet Club versus Team Impact. This is great. Next week it's going to be a fun show that I get. There's a lot of fun matches coming next week that I'm very excited that I get to cover. Yeah. Sorry, Astrid. There's a really good Impact next week that I'm excited to cover.
And as Barry says, Time Machine, Bullet Club, and Team Impact, it's shaping up that it could be a solid trios division. I doubt that we'd ever actually get a full-blown trios division, but it's fun for the time being that we've got 3 really good trios building in the company.
Yeah, I mean, it just so happens that one of them is your world champion, so I wouldn't keep him in that division, but yeah, no, it's fun. When Macklin beats him at Rebellion, then you can put Josh back in that trio, and there you go.
Yeah. Our next match we get into, Jonathan Gresham, the Octopus, taking on the Time Splitter Kushida. Literally, I have 2 words that I wrote for this match. Technical masterpiece.
I wrote, this is one of the best matches I've seen in a while. God, I could watch these 2 wrestle all night. Yeah, there's nothing else that needs to be said. Go find this match. It's not hard. Impact, spend the $1. Spend the $1 to go watch this on YouTube. Like, it's worth the buck.
Absolutely. These 2 just put on a masterclass of technical wrestling. I've said that about a few different matches that we've got this year. These 2 are the upper echelon of technical expertise or technical experts as far as wrestling goes. I don't even want to really give away a lot of what went on in this match. There was so much intricacy to it. If you love technical, intricate wrestling, absolutely find this match. It's really setting up Kushida for his title match against Josh Alexander at Multiverse United, that we do get Kushida with the hoverboard lock in the end, but the match itself is just, there's not words to describe it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The sad thing is, as good as this match is, it won't end up on many people's Match of the Year card because it's just a technical masterpiece. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more flashy things that take the spot. And that's unfortunate for these 2 guys. Because they told an incredible story with no words and all wrestling. And it's a joy to watch. And I'm glad I got to see it. And I'll probably watch it one more time this week.
It's another unfortunate loss for Jonathan Gresham. He's taken quite a few since signing his long-term deal to be with Impact here, but I still have high hopes for Gresham in Impact. It's just hard that he's taken so many L's and it feels like he hasn't taken very many W's yet.
It's weird that you bring in a guy with the pedigree of Jonathan Gresham and the ability of Jonathan Gresham, and you don't have... So, when somebody debuts for a company, especially a major television company, there's a progression that you go through where you have big, high-profile matches that you tend to win more often than you lose. Think Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes comes in... I know it's a sore spot for you, but Cody Rhodes comes in at Mania, beat Seth Rollins at Mania. Fine. He had the upper hand that he knew he was going to be in the match, and Seth didn't. They have the rematch. He beats Seth there. Another really great match. And then Seth goes, well, look, I can beat you. You can't beat me 3 times in a row. Cody gets hurt and has one of the greatest matches of the year inside Hell in the Cell. Now, granted, it means he's written off for a while, but you have this progression where you know he's going to come in, and even if he had won 2 of those 3 matches, it makes sense that you're putting the new guy over, and you have a spot for him. It seems weird that Impact brings in Gresham and doesn't seem to have a spot to put him to progress him towards the World Championship. Like, it seems like he's fallen in at the perfectly wrong time in Impact, where they're like, well, we need a big name to take an L here. Well, Gresham can do it. Well, Kushida's running, wild for the, and we need to push him so that he can have that match at Multiverse. Well, he can have a good match with Gresham. Okay, but that means Gresham takes another L.
But that's what we've gotten from Gresham since he's come in, right? He came back, he signed his contract, he got his immediate match against Eddie Edwards due to the Honor No More stuff, and surprisingly lost. He got a couple squash matches against nobodies, got thrown into the feud thrown into just a random match with Rich Swann right before Swann had his match against Josh Alexander and lost. He had the match with Speedball Mike Bailey that he surprisingly somehow managed to win, and then comes out of it and faces Kushida and immediately loses again. Like, they want to keep him strong to keep looking like someone that the top tier can keep knocking down a peg, and then he climbs back up to a top tier person and gets knocked back down again. And it's an interesting way to go about this. Like you said, usually when somebody comes in new and fresh and big name, they're pushed right to the top of the card and they're put over and they're made to look strong. It's very interesting for him to come in this situation and be put in the place where he's looking like the weaker member of the roster consistently, and then somehow manages to pull out a big win, but then loses some more afterwards.
Yeah, like I said, it's not bad. He's still having absolute banger matches, but
no.
It's unfortunate for his credibility inside the ring as a character. The character of Jonathan Gresham is taking a bit of a hit here. Because he's not... I don't believe that Gresham's going to go in there and win the match. Because he hasn't proven to me in this run in Impact that he's going to win the big match. Or the match at this point.
Yeah. After this match was done, we got a whole bunch of promos before we get to the main event. So I'm going to we'll cut through them in little bits here. So we got a quick clip of Eddie Edwards, who's in a car on his way to answer PCO in the desert. Then we go into the ring as Killer Kelly is out there with a chair sitting in the ring, talking about how she's not a fan of Taylor Wilde. She's not a fan of the supernatural and the cards and the games and whatever else. She calls out Wilde. Taylor comes out here. She says she's not here to play games. She just responds to the message from the cards. And the cards say it isn't about Kelly. Kelly says she isn't controlled by destiny. She takes destiny by the throat and chokes it out. Taylor is in the ring now, has a deck of cards with her, pulls a tarot card that she says is the sign of massive change and upheaval and destruction and chaos. Yeah, the Tower card. And as she's reading out all of these words about change and destruction and chaos, we get the surprise arrival and appearance of Callihan King in Impact Wrestling, who is here and attacks Killer Kelly in the ring. Did not have any clue this was happening. I don't know if this was ever spoiled anywhere. There was no mention of Callihan King being on the card. This was a big surprise. It was an enjoyable surprise. I have not got to see a lot of Callihan King wrestling, but I am familiar with her work. What were your thoughts at Callihan King's arrival here, Ed?
I love Callihan King. I've seen bits and pieces of her work. I'm not an expert on women's wrestling that Astrid is. I don't know as many of the great women's wrestlers as our friend Bobby Benito in the chat is. That being said, I've seen enough of Callihan King with the NWA to know that she's a well-trained, good hand and a talent. I wonder who's leading who in terms of the wrestling style in a thing with Callihan King and Taylor Wilde, because as we all know, Taylor Wilde is not one of my favorite people in the world. She's my least favorite witch on wrestling, because on NXT we have Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, and they're fantastic witches. You know, they do the whole witchcraft thing. You know, they cast spells and hexes and things like that. They don't just have tarot cards and go, ooh, spooky card. By the way, when Killer Kelly smiles, I just melt into 1,000 pieces. Like, when she smiles, the whole world just stops. I don't know why they call her Killer Kelly, because she's so pretty and beautiful.
She'll kill you with that smile.
Oh, she can... Listen. This is Astrid's show. We're not on OLE. No, I'm not going to calm down. You're not here. You're not in charge tonight. I don't have to calm down.
Come on, Astrid. We knew this was coming. Mandy hasn't been on TV for months. Ed's got all this pent-up frustration.
And Nikita Lyons is out. Like, it's bad for me right now. But this is great. I really enjoyed this. Callihan King working with Taylor Wilde will make Taylor Wilde a better wrestler, which is sad considering it can't make her any worse. And the fact that Taylor Wilde's the veteran in this really makes that a bad statement. Like, how damning of a statement is it that I'm saying the young, like, 20-some-odd-year-old Callihan King is going to help improve the veteran in this thing?
I think it's good for Taylor Wilde to be in a team. I thought we were getting Taylor Wilde and Kelly Kelly as a team. Clearly, that was a one-off that didn't last, and now we're getting them against each other again. I think Taylor Wilde does better in a team where her weaknesses can be hidden. When she was teaming with Mickie James before her last rodeo match against Mickie James, it was the same idea. Like, she didn't look good when she was in the ring, but at least she wasn't in the ring long enough to expose her too much, and Mickie could really pick up and help carry her through those weak spots.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I would have liked if Wilde pulled the call and Kelly would have said no. I was thinking of the Seven of Clubs.
After this segment is done, we went to a commercial break after seeing PCO beating up a rock in the desert, and then came back to Killer Kelly sitting backstage when mystically the Death Dolls just pop into appearance. Rosemary, Jessica, and Taya Valkyrie pop in. They explain Rosemary tries to explain the supernatural to Kelly, and that witches can't be trusted. They offer their help to Kelly, and she's like, you know where to, if you need our help or you want our help, you know where to find us. And I appreciated Kelly being like, actually, no, I don't.
Oh, I love the spooky bullshit. This is like Impact got their money's worth for people just like appearing randomly out of nowhere on this show. This isn't the first, and it won't be the last time that we're gonna hear this in this next like 5-minute block. But yes, as Barry says, thank God for Rosemary, because Rosemary is fantastic. Like, Killer Kelly is great too, but there's nothing better than listening to Rosemary talk absolute nonsense bullshit and make it sound like a coherent promo. I really wish Rosemary would go somewhere else where she would have more exposure. No, you know what I'm saying? I just want to see her on a bigger stage, because she's so good at what they do with her. I don't want her to leave Impact, because they know exactly who she is and they kind of let her do her thing. And I think everybody else would ruin her. But God, could you imagine her doing this on a bigger stage?
If Rosemary was to have ever left Impact, if Rosemary was to have gone to, say, a WWE, there is one place one place in all of wrestling history, and you should be able to write an episode about this, Ed, on your What If show. What if Rosemary had been Sister Abigail?
And there were rumors. There were heavy rumors when they were getting ready to debut Sister Abigail that it was going to be Rosemary. Everybody wanted it. It would have made a million pieces of sense. I wish they would have done it.
And who knows why it didn't. Perhaps Rosemary was loyal to Impact and didn't want to make that jump.
I just think that she was under contract. I just don't think that the timing ever worked out for her. Honestly, there's no reason for her to leave Impact. Like, she's handled wonderfully there. I wouldn't leave if I were her either. I'm just saying, as a fan of hers, seeing all of that with the multi-million-dollar budget that WWE or NXT could throw at it, or an AEW could throw at it, would just be so fun to see.
Yeah.
Rosemary and Stardom would never work. I mean, if Mel is still here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see what Rosemary does and the things she does well, I don't see working within Stardom.
Not to the full extent of what she does. If Rosemary were to go to Stardom, she would probably fit somewhat decently with Edo Tai, just because they're the ones that have a little bit of that darker, spooky vibe to them, especially because they've got, I forget her name, the clown. They've got the clown girl in Edo Tai that Rosemary would probably fit there, but no, that's not the place for her. Impact is where she's been. Impact, I think, is where she belongs. Yes, it would be cool to see what she could do with a bigger stage and a bigger budget and a bigger support system, but she's done so well for herself in Impact at this point. And because she has succeeded so well at what she's doing, I think the appearance of the Killer Kellys and the Taylor Wilds and Hex and the Undead Bridesmaids are a testament to just how amazing Rosemary has been in her role.
Don't forget Bunny. Bunny got an AEW contract off the back of the wonderful things that Rosemary does.
Yeah, and even, Ty Valkyrie and Jessica Havoc, like Havoc's role in Decay and even before Decay is largely a testament to Rosemary's role in Impact Wrestling, that she has carried this Knockouts division through all of the ups and downs and all of the comes and goes of your Angelina Loves and your Madison Rains and, Taya taking her leave for a while, Tenille being there for a while. Like, everybody that's come and gone, Rosemary has been the staple of this division for well over 10 years now.
When the moment she decides that enough's enough and she's hanging it up, she should immediately go into the Impact Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody right now who I think screams Knockouts division and Impact, even just beyond the Knockouts division. There's nobody who I think of when I think of Impact. She's the first name that comes to mind. Because she is Impact.
Yeah.
She's the spooky bollocks. She's the fun. She has great matches. She tells a story. Her promos are captivating. She can make this garbage that she was handed tonight, like constantly just having to say, you can't trust witches. Taylor Wilde is awful. Let us help you. And she had it make sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't disagree at all. And Kelly, going back to the promo itself, Kelly, after she's offered, the help, she's like, I appreciate, but no, I'm comfortable in 2-on-1 situations, which seemed like it had a little bit of innuendo left in the open-ended.
Taya burst out laughing. It was great. I was fine with it until I saw Taya's face, and I'm like, oh God, I'm thinking the same thing Taya is.
And at which point, Taylor Wilde and Kylie King then appear on screen right as Killer Kelly's walking off, and reveal to us that their team name is going as the Coven, which I'm going to pop the credit here on Twitter. There's an Impact fan on Twitter that I believe hosts a show called Impacted, goes by the name of Bison, put it out into the universe that a Coven is usually 3. Who is their third? So that's a big question coming out of that. But Kylan basically challenges the Death Dolls because if Rosemary doesn't like them practicing the dark arts, then maybe they should come and stop them. To which Rosemary goes on a rant about, I know what this is. You want a shot at our titles. Well, let's make a pact. If we'll put the titles on the line, and when you lose, you will drop the dark arts. And Kylan agrees to this and says they don't just knock on death's door, they knock it down.
I could care less about this match. I put titles versus spooky bullshit in my notes. I'd rather talk more about who the third person might be than talk about how disinterested I am in seeing Taylor Wilde have any wrestling matches at all, period. I'm going to bring up Barry's comment because, again, this is something I'd rather talk about than Taylor Wilde wrestling. I wonder how much Rosemary worked with Crazy Steve. I see similarities and he's really improved. The original Decay, before we had Black Charus and everything else, the original Decay was Rob Terry, that you brought up earlier. It was Crazy Steve, and it was Rosemary. Well, there were other people, but the Decay that really hit the ball rolling in Impact's past.
I know I was watching when Decay formed, and now I'm confusing. Maybe I'm misremembering. Was Abyss not involved in that as well?
He might have been. He's been involved in everything. I'm looking up the Decay now. But, no, she was involved for a long time. She's still technically listed on Wikipedia as a member of Decay, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they've been fantastic for years. Her and Crazy Steve worked incredibly well. Yes, Abyss was part of Decay.
Yes, it was initially Crazy Steve, Abyss, and Rosemary.
Okay. I remember before... Okay, so then I must be thinking of what they did before... Because there was the Menagerie. Okay, I'm thinking of the Menagerie that Crazy Steve was part of that was right before the Decay. And that was when Rob Terry was in it. I apologize. Yeah. My Impact history, especially going back that far, gets a little fuzzy because there's so much that goes on there. But there's really good stuff between Crazy Steve and Rosemary. They've been friends in this business for years upon years. They are fantastic. Both of them are light years better than Kylan King. I'm sorry, both better than Taylor Wilde. Kylan King has plenty of room to grow and improve and become a wonderful competitor.
Yeah. No, Rosemary has worked with some amazing talents just in regards to learning how to really play up the spooky too, with Abyss, with Crazy Steve, with Father James Mitchell. She's had such wonderful mentors around her that it's really just fully fleshed her character to the point that even transitioning from the Decay to the Death Dolls now, like she's still the same character, but she's grown, she's evolved, she's become something new that's still similar enough to what she was.
Astrid, Kylan is innocent here. She is. I mean, poor Kylan to be just shoved into this. Like,
jeez, Ed.
This is what you get when you bring me on.
Yeah.
There's the rails where the train's supposed to go, and then there's where we go, off the rails.
Like I said, we were off the rails before the show even went on the air tonight, so we knew where we were headed. We're already, well longer than Astrid and I ever go on this show, but it's a special episode. We don't get to do this together often enough.
This is true. We're almost done. We only have the main event left.
I mean...
we have PCO and Eddie Edwards. Do we really have to talk about that?
I mean, we could talk about it for a brief moment to explain that Eddie met PCO in the desert. There was a little bit of fighting. PCO tried to bury Eddie. Somebody hit PCO with a car. Eddie got in the car and rushed out of there. If it's not Alicia in the car, what's the point?
I agree. I thought we were going to get a reveal as to who was in the car because they lingered on that shot for a while. Yeah. They hit PCO with a car. They hit him good too. Like, they really hit him with that car. No, it's. I could have done without it.
It's a nice way to come full circle, because this whole PCO and Eddie stuff where we had last time we were in Vegas, PCO was buried alive by Eddie. Now we think that Eddie's going to get buried, and at the last minute we get the swerve.
Yeah. By the way, where was he going to get buried? Like, I didn't see a grave. Like, what was PC? My bigger question is like, he's like, I'm going to bury you, and I'm like, where? You didn't dig a grave.
He's just going to throw dirt on him until it's a big enough mound.
Oh, I hope not. I really hope it's not Davey. Oh God, that would be bad.
I mean, this really feels like it should just be the point where we actually get Alicia and Eddie back on the same page. Maybe turn Alicia heel, have Eddie have Alicia in his corners as someone to cause shenanigans and help him win matches.
Could you imagine how bad the match would be between Taylor Wilde and Alicia Edwards?
It might even be so bad it's good.
I don't think that's possible.
Clearly we're going somewhere. We'll get a resolution out of this maybe next week, but that's all I really have to say about that segment. It happened. We've got some kind of big reveal coming of who helped Eddie Edwards, but not much more to say.
Yep.
We get a rundown of what's coming up. We get the big announcement that I had not heard prior to tonight, that Multiverse United, we are going to have an NJPW strong match between Kenta and Minoru Suzuki, which mind-blowing. Like, that match has happened, I believe, on the G1 before. That it's not something brand new, but still, those two are two of my favorites as far as NJPW wrestlers go. Putting them on that show together is just a surefire way to put a banger on. Then we get the rundown for next week. We have Jonathan Gresham and Speedball Mike Bailey teaming up again after their match to now take on Crazy Steve and Black Taurus in a tag team match. We have Steve Macklin taking on Heath. We have the Death Dolls versus the Coven. And we have the Bullet Club trio of Kenta, Ace Austin, and Chris Bay taking on Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, and Frankie Kazarian. That's a hell of a card coming up for us to talk about next weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that show next week. Ha ha, Astrid. You get to see Big Ben. I get to watch a great Impact. Ha ha. I get to win.
Main event time. Main event tonight is Gisele Shaw, featuring Jay Vidal and Savannah Evans in her corner, taking on Mickie James for the Knockouts World Championship. Right off the bat, we get a surprise, a somewhat surprise at least, that we are going to be graced on commentary for this match by the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. And I'm just going to say, I didn't take a ton of notes for this match because I was enjoying the match itself. My one knock on this match is I spent a lot of time listening to Deonna, who was talking a lot about Deonna, which I can't fault her. That is Deonna's, character, really. But it took away a little bit from the match for me, that the commentary wasn't so much focused on what Gisele and Mickie were doing as much as they were focused on how Gisele and Mickie had story and history with Deonna. But the match itself, like what Gisele and Mickie did in the ring, like all of it was extremely enjoyable. I think what bothered me the most about it is that it was such a good match. I wanted commentary to be invested in it the way I was. And Matt Raybolt in his history with Deonna, he just swoons over Deonna almost too much on that commentary booth. Yep. Where did you fall on the match itself?
I wasn't enamored with Gisele Shaw. I've never been enamored with Gisele Shaw, and I think that's because of the fact that I don't get to see Gisele Shaw more often. Parrish says my girl Gisele. You've seen Gisele probably more than most, being that she's from the Canadian wrestling scene, that she's done a lot of work in Canadian wrestling, and that you guys are familiar with her work. I am not. I didn't think her and Mickie had the greatest of chemistry. I thought it was an alright match. But unfortunately, in 3 days, I've watched 2 women's matches main event. Their respective shows. I saw Miko Satomura versus Roxanne Perez main event NXT Roadblock. And I saw Gisele Shaw versus Mickie James main event Impact, both for the women's championships. And maybe that played into it, where I was expecting something a little bit more impressive from Mickie and Gisele than I should have been. I like Gisele. I think her character is intriguing. I wish that they would give her a little bit more in terms of I feel like she's missing a direction. She has Jay Vidal. She has now a heater in Savannah Evans. But I don't know what it is that Gisele is doing that makes Gisele worthy of the matches against Deonna, the match against Mickie here. I think she beat Deonna, and that's how she gets the match with Mickie.
Yeah.
It's fine. Mickie James, I feel like we're at the end of Mickie James' career, and I just feel like we shouldn't be wasting Mickie James matches on... And I don't want to say waste. I feel like there are more important people in this division that I think we can build and let Mickie James give the rub to than having her tied up with, even for the briefest of moments, with Gisele Shaw.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're in that twilight hour. Astrid and I, throughout the last rodeo, I had the feeling that we were probably heading to Mickie saying her goodbyes and being retired and possibly inducted into the Hall of Fame around Sacrifice or Rebellion here. Mm-hmm. And now that we're into the title reign and kind of have the picture, at least through Sacrifice, laid out in front of us, that we're getting Mickie versus Jordynne Grace, the rematch coming up at Sacrifice, and then whatever comes next at Rebellion, I almost wonder if Mickie gets to hold this reign a little bit longer and hold it out until Slammiversary in the summer.
Yeah, my biggest problem is that you've run yourself into a really interesting corner now, where you're making it obvious that you're doing these dream match scenarios for Multiverse United. And you've got Mickie James and Sasha Banks just sitting there. Or Mercedes Moné, I apologize. I don't feel like that match is the match for either woman to have right now. I don't think it does anything other than to give Mercedes the match that I guarantee you she's been dreaming of for the last 20 years. But I just don't know if that's something that's going to be the best thing for Mickie. Because if you do that match, you have to have Mickie lose. And then that looks bad going into her rematch with Jordynne. Because the Sacrifice match... Wait.
Sacrifice comes a week first. Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. So that's fine. I guess you can have her beat Jordynne and then have her lose to Mercedes. This is where you get into some of those problems where you're trying to plan out ahead what you will do with this, multiverse scenario.
I think the hiccup with this and kind of the misconception with the whole multiverse show, though, is a lot of what's going on at Multiverse United is containing people from NJPW Strong, the US branch of NJPW. We don't, other than Will Ospreay coming across, I don't think we really have any full-time local Japanese talent coming across for this show. Kenta's been doing Strong. Minoru hasn't been in Japan for a while. He's been doing his American tour. You've got a lot more of the American based of the NJPW. So bringing Mercedes across, as amazing as it would be to see Mercedes versus anybody really on the Impact roster as a first-time dream matchup, I don't think that's in the cards. And I would not be surprised if we don't have a women's match on Multiverse United at all, simply for the fact that it would be a shame, but simply for the fact that NJPW Strong is purely men. They don't have a women's contingent to the American branch of NJPW right now.
Makes sense. And again, like I said, I'm an outsider to all of this, so a lot of my opinions take with grain of salt. I see very little, and like I said, I like Impact. I'm a big proponent of Impact. I think it is, to be honest with you, I think it's the second best run American promotion in wrestling. I will wholeheartedly battle that it's the second best run television product in the United States.
It has definitely struggled through some poor ownership and some poor management and some poor circumstances, that it has taken a lot of knocks and it has taken a huge hit to its reputation. But I think the product itself is still consistently some of the best you see.
It's the wrestling promotion that will not die.
Yeah. Just run down the end of the match. We've already talked about the fact that Mickie obviously won. Just the shenanigans that ensued. Vidal, Deonna pulls him off the apron. Savannah gets caught by the referee. Gisele tries to go for a roll-up. Deonna comes in and flips the roll-up and helps Mickie get the win. Interesting turn of events, given that Deonna and Mickie have so much negative history between them. But ultimately, the enemy of my enemy is my friend is kind of the theme of this story, and we're left with a stare down between Deonna and Gisele to end the show, clearly stating that these two are not completely finished with their nonsense.
Did Gisele look out of position for the rollback? Did it look like she was almost too high and that Deonna didn't know what to do for a second there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, Deonna took a second or two longer than I think she had initially planned to, like, look at Gisele before she kind of rolled her back.
Yeah, she kind of looked at her like, wait, how am I going to do this? And maybe that's just a matter of her actually selling the fact that it took her a second to think of how she could fix this. But
I like I said, it could have been all in great storytelling. It just, unlike the great storytelling earlier in the night that we talked about on BTI, where it was, we don't know what we're doing, and that's a positive thing for the story, this felt like it was an awkward moment where you're doing this creative finish where it's an overdone, but it's a creative finish. And like I said, maybe I'm just being too harsh on Gisele. Maybe I just need to enjoy Gisele a little bit more, and see a little bit more of her and understand what I'm looking at. But I come from watching NXT on a weekly basis, where I see a lot of top tier women's talent and a lot of well-told women's talent stories and a lot of developing women. And I think that Gisele fits more into the developing women's talent than I think she fits into the top tier women's talent.
Yeah, she's been around for sure. Like she's still got a lot of growth as far as the overall storytelling goes, but she was the top champion in Rev Pro for quite a time a couple years back. Came across, she's really kind of had to build and grow within Impact. It feels like she's being groomed for a big role in Impact going forward. Maybe that's just because of her relationships and where she falls in that structure, but she's, having seen her as a completely unknown here in our local scene, seeing a little bit of what she did in Rev Pro and now seeing her show up in Impact, I feel like I've seen a lot of that growth that she feels like she's getting to that point too.
And Barry, I know we were all allowed to have our opinions and we're all allowed to disagree. I feel like even for me, this is a bit harsh on Gisele. After the Gisele-Deonna match at No Surrender, I'd be happy if they never wrestled again. I don't know how bad that match was, but it sounds a little harsh to me.
Yeah, I think Astrid and I, if I recall correctly, Astrid and I were both on the same page with that match, that we actually both really enjoyed it.
I know the story going into it was garbage. I know that there was something involving chili.
Yeah, there was the chili that they kept throwing in Gisele's face and stuff. But in regards to the match itself, I don't recall really completely disliking it. And I think Astrid and I had a conversation about the match itself being done fairly well. And the surprise of Savannah coming out for the swerve at the end was well done. So I'm okay with them being able to rehash this match with Deonna knowing what's on the ringside and maybe being able to find herself someone to have her back too.
It'd be great. Deonna's an incredibly well, developed talent who can tell fantastic stories. So I'm not worried about Deanna being able to figure something out here.
Yeah.
But like I said, I enjoyed Impact tonight. I had a really good time watching it. There was nothing that was overly terrible that lasted very long. All of the bad things were relatively quick, whether it be the Jordynne Grace match, which didn't click, whether it be the PCO Eddie Edwards stuff. Most of that was kept to a minute here and a minute there, and then 3 or 4 minutes at most for that long stretch where they hit him with a car. Which again, when you hit somebody with a car, it's a positive thing.
Yeah. I guess. Maybe he did it for The Rock.
I mean, you either run over Stone Cold or you do it for The Rock. One of the two.
Yeah.
Astrid still can't believe that he got hit with a... Astrid, you've seen enough PCO at this point to understand that something crazy is going to happen. Why is it so surprising that they hit PCO with a car? By the way, at Sacrifice, are we getting a Buried Alive match? Like, this... Please tell me we're getting a Buried Alive match at Sacrifice.
I feel like you have to at this point. Give me a Buried Alive match or at least a casket match, right?
Yeah, something. Like, it has to... Like, I don't know if they've done that. Like, I know you said he buried him alive before, but I don't know if it was part of a match or just an aftermath.
No, it was a segment just like this out in the desert where Eddie kicked PCO into a hole and then threw dirt on him, and then PCO's hand just came shooting out of the dirt at the end of the episode. So.
Okay.
What was it? 2-3 years ago, we had Dino Bravo got shot in the middle of an Impact ring. So.
Johnny Bravo.
Oh yeah.
Dino Bravo's 80s WWE guy.
Right.
You can murder people with the car. You heartless sods, nobody asks if the car is okay. The car drove away, the car is fine. No, the bigger question is, neither one of us have been concerned with the fact of whether or not PCO's okay. Neither
PCO.
one of us have... I agree, which is why I haven't bothered to state anything. I'm just saying, neither one of us have been like, oh, I wonder if PCO's okay. I started the NXT episode talking about how I don't know if the Roxanne Perez thing is a work, and all she did is collapse in the ring.
I've seen it in the year that PCO's been on Impact. We had to call in Vincent to shock him back to life again. Yeah. So if all else fails, just pick up PCO's body and get Vincent to call, and he'll be there with the...
He's not signed anywhere just yet.
Yeah, as far as we know, anyhow.
Yeah.
Ed, every week Astrid and I give our Impact Maker of the Week. I'm going to throw it to you. Who do you got for who made the biggest impact this week?
Kushida. I mean, it has to be Kushida. Kushida and Jonathan Gresham had a great match. Kushida won that match, so for me, it goes to Kushida.
Yeah, that's a solid choice. I'm going to go for what I think is a little bit more of the obvious choice for who made their impact this week. I'm going to say it's Callihan King. Unexpected, unknown, popping up, really just inserting herself immediately into a title feud here. As a known commodity, I love to see the knockout scene growing. I hope she's signed for something more than just a couple shows here. I'm giving it to her as that attack on Killer Kelly was something that came out of the blue for me.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that would have been... I was down to 3. It was either going to be Rosemary, Callihan King, or it was going to be Kushida.
Yeah, Rosemary would have been a great choice as well. She definitely owned the entire time she was on the screen, so I can't fault you there either.
Yeah, but it was a great show. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to come back next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to have you back. Astrid's decided she's going to take a little bit of time for her birthday to go and take a trip to London. Somewhere overseas.
I'll do it. I'll tell you. She's going to London. She's going to go see Big Ben. She's going to go
not to be confused with London, Ontario, the home of Under Siege in May.
Yeah, by the way, why... I know they're a Canadian company, but man, they're really getting around that small area of Canada.
Yeah, they're based out of Toronto, so they're just hitting the whole Ontario little corner there. They got Windsor for this month, they got Toronto next month, and we've got London for the following month. So,
but Canada's a big place. Canada's a big place. They should go somewhere else.
As I put on my Twitter today, 3 months in a row in Ontario. When you guys coming to the West Coast?
You've got Vancouver, you've got Calgary, you've got Alberta. Like, you've got all kinds of great places out there.
Calgary's in Alberta, but I can...
It's Canada. It's all one little itty-bitty place, isn't it?
It's Edmonton, the team that just beat your Boston team today, but we're neither here nor there.
We have to give some people a win at some point.
Ed, where can the people find you?
I don't know where the banners are for you guys, but I know right here. EdFries12584 on Twitter. You can find me at EdFries2002 on Twitch. Coming this probably Wednesday, because I think I'm going to take Monday night to do the little research in the game before I start streaming it. I have access to WWE 2K23 coming, so I will be streaming GM mode. I will potentially be streaming the showcase mode if I can figure out how to do that on PC, because for the first time I've bought a wrestling game on my PC as opposed to my PlayStation. But we've got some things in the works for some GM modes going on, so keep up to date on my Twitch, EdFries2002. And again, as always, you can catch me every Tuesday night with the natural Asher Bizarro as we talk all things NXT on Taking Over.
What do you got next Tuesday?
I have myself next Tuesday. I am doing a solo show. I asked a friend of mine to go ahead and do it. They were unfortunately unavailable. So I will be doing a solo show next Tuesday. But as Parrish has said before in the past, it's ironic how much when I'm by myself, things stay so much more on track. Because I can't divert my own attention. I just have this straight line focus of just getting things done. As opposed to when I have other people and I start going places.
Yeah, like tonight.
Like tonight.
There is no banner for mine because mine is very simple. It is right here. It is always right here at Cody Defoe on Twitter. Give me a follow on there. As I said, I threw out the tweet today at Impact Wrestling about when they were going to come where I am because unfortunately they have never come here. I got to see local WWE. I go to my local wrestling independent promotions all the time. But I would love to see Impact come to my hometown. Instead, I am making a special trip in April that I am going to be going to Rebellion and the Rebellion Fallout shows in Toronto and sitting live to enjoy some Impact there in April. Can't wait for that. Astra got to go to her live shows last month. I'm looking forward to going to my live shows next month. I will be with you guys for the next few weeks at least. Next week, we may be a little bit late getting on air depending on where my timeline falls. Ed and I will definitely be here. We will be on air next week. Just keep an eye. If you haven't already, give a follow on Twitter. I will post on there with an update of exactly what time you can expect to find us. If you do miss us on the Thursday, we will always have the replay showing up on Backbreaker Video, Backbreaker Media on Mondays. Give them a follow as well. We're always on there. If you ever miss an episode, you can always catch the replay on Backbreaker. We appreciate our friend Mike for hosting us on there to keep making an impact regularly available on YouTube for anybody who can't catch us live. To everybody in the comments that has joined us tonight, Barry, Bobby, Mel, Chris, everybody that joins us on a regular weekly basis, and of course, the natural Astrid, unfortunately not on your screens, but they're joining us. And our wannabe natural over here, Mr. Oled, who we are always happy to welcome back on our show. We miss having him around on NXT. Check him out on Taking Over on Tuesdays with Astrid. Come back and check Ed and I out next Thursday for more Making an Impact.
The bill's in the mail, Astrid. Don't you worry.
That's it. That's our show for this evening. Ed, final words?
Everybody make sure you keep watching Impact. They are a fantastic wrestling promotion. Make sure you keep watching Cody and Astrid and give them all the love because these guys put a lot of work and a lot of heart, blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that Impact gets coverage just like everybody else because Impact is so forgotten about. But the talent of people who cover Impact and the people who work at Impact are just worthy of your attention. So thank you guys for giving attention to people who are saying the good, praising the good word of Impact because these people are putting in so much hard work to try to get themselves to a place where people will give them the respectability that they deserve. With that, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.